Today on the podcast, we're talking conventions. Oh, what are you doing? Welcome to the Grizzled Geek Podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Kirsten.
I'm Doug.
And today we're going to be talking about comic conventions. Specifically, we just got back recently from the amazing Phoenix Comic Fest. What's it called now?
Comic Fest. Yeah.
Comic Fest?
Yeah.
It used to be called ComicCon until
It's going to be
San
Diego bought up all that.
Yeah.
They own it now.
Yep.
They own comic conventions. How that works, but
No, they own the name Comic-Con.
right. No other place could use
So
ComicCon now.
whatever
the
company runs
abbreviation of
those,
convention. They own the abbreviation of convention.
Apparently.
Apparently,
the combination of
comic and the abbreviation
con,
of convention.
Well, that's okay, because Phoenix Comicon
In
just
one.
got back and said that they're not going to do Comic Fest. It's going to be Fusion Fest.
Fusion Fest.
Phoenix Fusion Fest.
Well-
Yay! Whatever they're gonna.
Other than the name being a little confusing, it is at least not misleading, because I
Yeah.
got to say the one thing is there was not a lot of comic in Comic Fest this year.
That is true.
I mean, there were plenty of comic dealers on the dealer's floor.
Yeah.
There were a number of panels that were dedicated to Marvel, DC, the MCU, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those were just fan things. They were just like, hey, let's
Yeah.
get together and kind of talk. There wasn't any industry people there
There
talking
really
about stuff.
isn't ever, is there? Like, I've gone to Phoenix Comicon at least 2 times, maybe 3. I can't remember correctly. But the only comics that I can think of that I see is usually like Artist Alley will have their personal comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always Lady Death, the guy who does Lady
Coffin
Death.
Comics, yeah.
And
They're
then
based out
there's-
of Phoenix.
Yeah, because they live here. Yeah.
And then there's another one. I always see them. I just don't remember what they're about.
We went to their panel, and it was a good panel. It
Yeah.
was a traditional Comic-Con style panel from
Yes.
back in the day when we would go. That's all you went for, was to hear the current industry guys talk about what they were doing, or to learn how the industry works behind the scenes, stuff
Sure.
like that. And it was disappointing not seeing very much of that on their schedule. Yeah, that's how San Diego Comic-Con originally was it was all, I mean, you had like Hall H that had, what the movie studios were coming out with, but back
Yeah.
then they weren't coming out with
Right.
blockbusters. It
Yeah.
was like, woo, we're gonna get a cheesy comic movie like
Right.
a Captain America, or it was any genre, anything that could be kind of muscled into that area.
Right.
I mean, we got Bubba Hotep once. So.
Yeah. Well, we were back when they were like previewing like Blade when.
Yeah, Blade and
Me
stuff
and
like
Doug
that.
used to go to like San Diego Comic Convention, Comic-Con. We used to go back a lot of the 90s. We went, and then a little
Just
bit in the
a few
2000s.
into the 2000s. Then it got too hard to go.
It got too crowded. Nowadays,
And, it's too crowded.
the last time we went, I should tell you a side story here. Last time we went to San Diego Comic Convention, we had Saturday. We went to have lunch at what was it, little
Busters
Buster's? Was that the name of the
in
place?
Seaport Village.
In Seaport Village, yeah, just
Yeah.
down about a mile away from the convention center. We always walk down there and have lunch. And the line to get in that Saturday went way past Seaport Village, which is a mile away, all the way down the end of the pier and wrapped around
Right.
and was looping back on itself.
Right.
Just to get in Saturday.
Just to get in on Saturday. And most people, some people pre-bought tickets, but you
Right.
could go and line up
Yeah.
to get in. No. Now, if you didn't buy your tickets 8 months ahead of time, you're not going.
Yeah.
Well, now people go into the lotteries, and as soon as they're available, they get bought out
Yep.
completely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a competition of who can get them, because we tried last year and couldn't get to them.
No.
Yeah, it's a
You can't get in
so
there.
fast.
The only way to go nowadays is
And I don't even think you can do this anymore.
to get into our
Go
Sunday.
and buy it for the next year.
Yeah.
You used to be able to, while you were there, buy for next year.
Now
I
you have to
don't
get in the
even
lottery.
think you can do that anymore.
Well, they have a lottery for the lottery. So now you can go in if you're at the convention. So if you're lucky enough to get in like a one day on a Sunday or something like that, you can buy a first place in on the lottery. So you get drawn in the first group of the lottery to get your tickets for the next year. That's how ridiculous it's gotten.
That's
To the point where we don't even go to San Diego Comic-Con anymore.
Well, because it's
just-
it's mostly not comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hall H, you have to camp out the day before to get into Hall H.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. I'm not camping out for...
I don't feel like it's worth it. Like, people videotape, and now even conventions will videotape what's happening in...
Yeah.
They often will put out, at least highlights of what happened.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not there. You can't go up to the mic and ask questions, or you're not there.
You don't get the exclusive...
feeling the energy
Yeah.
and being the first to know and stuff, but still.
Right.
Yeah.
It all comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some exclusive footage you'll miss, but, you know...
Sure, yeah.
If someone doesn't bootleg a copy of it out somewhere.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. I feel the need, we should probably point out, and we didn't earlier, that for those of you watching on YouTube, you can actually listen to this podcast on Stitcher and iTunes and all that. For those of you listening on Stitcher and iTunes and that, you can actually watch us, see our faces on YouTube doing this very show. So just feel the need to point that out there. We have it available on all your better podcast channels.
Right.
For all your devices.
There you go.
Your listening pleasure. But all right, so
I guess we should get back to
Phoenix
Comic
Comic
Fest.
Fest.
And
Yeah,
talk about it.
we'll get into the bitching here in a minute. That's what our podcast turned into, us bitching about stuff. Back in my day, comics were comics. All right, so Phoenix Comic Fest, or Spectacular, or whatever it is now.
We should point out we only went one day. We went Saturday.
Saturday.
The main day.
Right.
For all these conventions, Saturday is generally the main day. Most things are happening. Most of the guests are there and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and this year, Phoenix Comicon was actually more expensive than it usually is. Normally, you can get like the entire weekend for like $60, $50.
It was $55 just for Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it went up in price significantly.
Yeah. And it's funny because I didn't feel like the talent that was there necessarily warranted something like that. Maybe they're getting charged more by the convention center, which I want to talk about that at some point. But but you had what's that?
There were a lot of like
there were a lot
prominent guests that came.
I'm trying to think.
Flash Gordon was there.
Flash Gordon was there. The two of the princesses. Shatner was there. He was probably the biggest name.
There a whole bunch of the Disney princesses.
Yeah, the voice of Belle and Jasmine were there. I didn't see any others, but those were there on Saturday while we were there.
Right.
There may have been others on other days. I don't know.
I was looking over the guest list. There wasn't. I mean, there were a lot of guests, but there wasn't any that were like A-list.
Giant names.
There
was a lot of people. You're like, oh, I know that guy from that show.
Right.
Or I know that guy from that show. The telepathic cop from Heroes was there.
Right.
I don't know what he's done since then, but I know he's in there. The guy who played one of the dwarves, the bald dwarf from The Hobbit, was there.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's the. I don't remember any of the people's
there
names.
was a bunch of people, but it wasn't like
That one dude and that one thing that he did. Oh yeah.
But there was a
Will
variety.
Wheaton was there.
I like that there was a variety. Oh, I've got a story to tell about that.
Oh, Will Wheaton story.
But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, it was a little weird. I mean, but I remember we used to go to Phoenix Comicon all the time, and they would actually be, I don't know, fairly, I mean, not like huge names, but like, Bruce Campbell, or, some of the, whatever, was on TV, like the Walking Dead guys were there.
Yeah. Well, and I got to admit, I'm not into current genre TV, so there may have been some people from some popular shows that I just didn't recognize who they were.
Yeah.
We've got the book here that I guess we could flip through, but
See whose name.
let's see who.
And
But
that'd be
is
being
that
prepared.
There were a lot of people. I felt there was a lot of variety. It wasn't just people who make comics or just people writers.
Yeah.
there was a big area to meet them too.
Yeah, for sure.
It was huge. So
A lot of opportunities to meet them too. It wasn't like one time, one day, go see them, get your signature, and they're gone for the rest of the day.
Right. Like we went to see Barbara Dunkelman, and she was there. She was signing 3 different times that day and had a panel.
Yeah, and the next day she had 3 other signings.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
maybe another panel. I don't know for that.
Yeah, sure. I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't a Rooster Teeth panel.
Yeah.
It was literally, it was a Barbara Dunkelman panel.
Yeah.
She just answered people's questions, which was cool because she seems really personable.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was no structure to it. Anything we learned was just kind of random happenstance.
Right.
Yeah.
It was more stuff about what Barbara liked and what, like, her career in general,
Right,
life
yeah.
in general, more than, like,
Yeah.
her as a character or what she thinks is going on.
Or what's going on
And
with Rooster Teeth or any of that kind of
And I
stuff.
think a big problem was that this was scheduled the same weekend as MegaCon in Florida. So, like, for instance, our hometown cosplayer, Jessica Negri, was in Florida, not at her hometown convention.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like some of the guys from Collider Heroes, they were all in
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
Florida. There's a bunch of stuff that people that, you know, that I was like, hoping to see, but
Right.
it would normally be at this convention, but now there's so many comic conventions, now they're starting to like double up.
Well, and
Right.
honestly, if you could go to a convention that was near Disney World or come to Phoenix at the beginning of summer, which
Yeah.
would you do?
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Fair enough. But still,
Still.
you're going to sweat either way.
What's that?
Why don't we do it in the winter? Who
I
decided that?
don't know.
It is
Someone
weird.
Who wasn't planning.
Yeah.
It may be the cost of, well, one, we're
maybe.
getting towards
Yeah.
the point, well, not quite, but we're getting towards the point where people might be on summer vacation where more
Oh, I
people
guess
could
that's
come.
true. Make it easier.
It's
for people.
probably cheaper to do conventions in the summer.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I don't know that for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. We could. I know we do have there's a comic fan fest. It's like the smaller version of Phoenix Comicon. It's in the wintertime.
We don't have that anymore.
We don't have it anymore?
They
Really?
just announced that they're canceling that. They're
Oh.
not doing that anymore because
Wow.
I believe the message that they put out was that it's not formed its own identity. There's not enough people of any specific interest who's involved. It's just kind of like a hodgepodge put together
Got it.
sort of thing. So we're no longer getting that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Starting to run out here. Now, I remember back in the day, I mean, we never had a Comic-Con back in the day, but we had
We had gaming
conventions. Yeah, we go to gaming conventions, and we actually had some pretty big ones here in Phoenix. And now, I don't even know whether they have gaming conventions anymore. They have one in Tucson every year. And then I think
Yeah.
they have Maricopa Con.
They try,
or-
they've tried to Kickstarter conventions a couple of times. I don't know how successful those have been,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I
It's like-
do miss those because those were pretty cool.
Yeah.
They were very interesting. Now, one thing I didn't notice was whether or not our dealer's room had any big names in it. Coffin Comics was there. Valiant Comics was there. But
Yeah.
I don't know if any big, Marvel, DC, Wizards of the Coast, anybody like that was there.
I don't think
I didn't see
it was.
anybody.
We scanned up and down. Like there
Yeah.
were some like, what is the one? There's an anime store that I follow, and it's like a huge. They have everything anime. They were there, and there was like a hentai store that everyone knows in the hentai area. Like
Nice.
they came and they had some stuff there.
So publishers weren't not necessarily well represented
Yeah.
at this convention. So
Like,
that's
again, it wasn't
unfortunate.
really comics. And that's not just Phoenix Comic Con, but like Comic Cons in general. Comics again kind of pushed the wayside. It's more of a cosplay / industry movie
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, I mean,
convention
comics,
now. I mean, they're
comics are represented to a degree, but so much more of it, the mainstream, is the movie version of comics or the animated version of
Yeah.
comics or the video game versions of comics are more popular than the comics themselves.
yeah.
So
well, last year when they
they get
announced
more-
that, when Mile High Comics announced they were no longer going to San Diego Comic Con, that was like
that was a big deal.
That was carrying the mine shaft. That was signaling the end here because it's. They're the ones that started the comic conventions. All the big comic book dealers.
Mm-hmm.
They got together and it was just a place for them to sell comics,
Right.
And then they bring in a few guests and whatever, and it just kind of grew from that. And then Mile High is one of the biggest comic book stores. I mean, if you're looking for a comic, they're
Yeah.
the best chance to get it. They have a big online presence and a huge, giant warehouse of a store, in Denver, and they were a staple. They had every time you went to San Diego Comic-Con, like right in the middle of the dealer's room, like they had a big
Yeah,
tower.
they had probably one of the most, significant presence there.
Yeah.
At least early on. Later on, the big guys like Marvel and DC and all them,
started
they
having
had
floor presence. Yeah.
I mean, they would have giant what would be 5 or 6 dealer booths, and then just these cool dioramas or statues or movies playing or whatever, to kind of like draw attention to themselves.
Yeah.
I would kill to be able to see like a table, even if it was just like the artist, like who does the work for the comic, or like maybe the writers out there selling like the newest issue they just put out or something like that, and get that signed. That would be so awesome.
That's
Top
back in the
Cow.
day.
Top Cow had a booth.
Did
Top
they?
Cow / Aspen Comics. They were back to back with each other.
Oh, nice.
I guess they broke off from each other. Or Aspen is the studio and Top Cow produces their comics. I don't know.
Yeah.
But those were together there. So
Speaking of Top Cow, I remember one of my fondest memories is back in the early 90s. We did the Image tour of conventions. Remember when Image founded that year? Mm-hmm. They broke off all the major artists and creators, and Marvel split off and became Image Comics, which is now the third biggest.
right.
They actually beat Marvel 1 year or 1 month.
Yeah.
1 month in sales.
Yeah.
They became number 2 at one point.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's how big they got at one point. But anyway, that tour, they went around, they had all their number 1 issues, and the entire group went around to different conventions, and it happened to be the year that we went around to like multiple conventions that year. So we saw them in Chicago, saw them in, was it Dallas? Where were we else?
I didn't go to that one. If
It
that
was
was
like there was like 3 places we went, and San Diego, of course.
Yes.
So we actually got, back then you could actually stand in line, you get autographs, for the number 1 issues and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Without plopping down $50 for it first.
Right. They would just be at their publisher's booth signing.
Yeah. So
But
that's where we got all our Image Comics number 1s signed from that group. So
That's cool.
that was pretty cool. That was actually back in the day. I remember when was it 1 year that we happened to Norm Brayfogle just kind of hanging out by himself at the booth, and I got to draw a picture of Prime. So like that.
Yeah.
I mean, here's Norm Brayfogle. Back before Jim Lee, he was like the premier like Batman artist. He did like Prime. That Ultraverse comic.
Yep.
I don't know what.
Yeah, that was one of the fun parts. I don't know that this happens anymore.
Yeah.
For example, when we got there at Phoenix Comic Fest, when we arrived, we rode in the elevator from the parking garage with a lady who was working at the convention. We're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm William Shatner's handler."
Yeah.
So so they have a handler that guides him around and
Right.
takes him everywhere. We at San Diego Comic-Con 1 year, Mark Hamill was just walking around
Yeah.
the
Just bumped
floor,
into-
putting his name badge on other people, going, "Look, it's Mark Hamill," and just goofing around with people.
Yeah.
That would never happen.
That doesn't
nowadays.
happen nowadays. Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
We ran into we ran into a bunch of people like that at San Diego. And
Sat a table away from Chris Claremont and a bunch of guys at Ruth's Chris.
yeah.
They were just beating right behind us.
Yeah.
We're all like, "No, what are you guys talking
it's
about?"
like, look at the Marvel brain trust over that table right over there. It's like that table created like a lot of our childhood, just like one table over.
One table
you
over,
know.
there was like 4 or 5 guys. But yeah, it's less like that now because they've got somebody who takes them from their room to their table and to their next thing,
Right.
and you just don't get the feeling that they mix.
Yeah.
They can mix, and I don't know if that's because fans are crazier now than they
Yeah,
were
well,
before.
I think
I'm
so.
sure that's a big part of
They're
it.
probably seeing a lot more crazy than they would at a
Yeah.
smaller convention.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just, that's a matter of size, right?
Yeah.
Conventions have grown to the size where now, you get more people, you're going to end up with more crazies.
Right. Yeah.
They only be a small percentage of the population, but as that group grows, more
Yeah.
of them will pop up. So, like, was the guy at Phoenix conventions a couple years ago tried to kill the Green Ranger?
That was
it
last year.
Was last year?
Yeah, last
Okay.
year. He wasn't trying to kill the Green Ranger. He had threatened to go in and, or maybe it was. He went in and Green
They had
Ranger
weapons
was
on him?
ready at the very
He got
last-
through with weapons. I remember that,
Yeah.
and then they caught him, but he was already in the convention
Green
center.
Ranger caught him. Green Ranger
Yeah.
was there. He used.
He's a martial artist, man.
Martial arts and took him out.
See, don't mess with the Power Rangers. They're
There you go.
trained, but yeah. So yeah, I mean that's crazy. So now because of that, we have to, we couldn't have cosplay weapons and stuff like that year. This year they allowed them in,
Yes.
but
But they have like a separate check-in.
they have a
so,
separate
like,
check-in. Like every time you went in and out now, I had to have like all your backpacks and everything.
Yeah.
Search,
You know,
yeah.
just swanned down.
And that's everywhere.
Yeah.
If you go to Disneyland, they do that thing.
Yeah.
You open all your bags. You
Yeah.
know, we got to see what's in there.
Go into a bar now.
You go to the
have
water
do
park, you gotta do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Pretty
it's
crazy.
crazy. But let's talk about the convention center itself
Okay.
for Phoenix Comicon, because I felt like it had like cool spaces, lots of space. You know, the dealer's room was huge.
Yeah.
It was reminiscent of like a San Diego.
Right.
Obviously not quite that big, but it was humongous.
Yeah.
They had good presentation rooms and stuff like that. But the getting in and out, you know, like the main little corridor, the fact that there were only 3 elevators, I think, in the whole place,
Yeah.
it was just crazy getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Once you got someplace, it was nice.
Right.
But getting anywhere was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's-
There are elevators to get up and down. There's only like 2 or 3 elevators, so you got to fight everyone to get up there. It takes 12 years to get anywhere you want to go.
And if
Yeah.
you are handicapped and you're on the second floor, like I had a bum knee, so I had to like have a little cart. But there was like 2 guys in wheelchairs waiting to get in on the second floor, and they were there for 20 minutes. Right? I finally went and found another place to go down.
Yeah,
Right?
Right.
it turns out there was another
But there's an elevator at the
elevator.
far back of the room, but the far back of the building. But they just couldn't get on the elevator, right?
Right.
Because it was full. People were going either to the bottom or to the top.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the second floor, they couldn't even get on the elevator. So it was
Right.
rough. And Phoenix Convention Center. It's built right downtown, right? And because it's built downtown, instead of one gigantic building like they have in San Diego, there's 6 separate buildings for the convention center, right? I mean, they only use about 3 of them for the convention.
Yeah.
And they're multi-floor
Yep.
rooms.
Right.
And then all the hotels, like the Hyatt and everything around downtown, just like at Gen Con, there's something going on in their convention centers. So every hotel has convention areas,
That's cool.
and so they have stuff going on down there. And so they all take part. So it's more spread out than what you would see at a normal convention. So you go
Right.
to San Diego, it's one giant building, but it's all in that one building. And the dealer's room is one giant room there. In Phoenix, their convention center, like I said, there's stuff going on in different buildings, at different floors. Like I missed that one panel. Because
right.
I was in the wrong building.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, right.
I was in the second floor looking around. I'm like, wait,
I can't find her.
I can't find it.
Yeah.
And it was in the other building. But so I do like the convention space. I like it. The big rooms. They got the big giant areas for big. They don't have like anything Hall H size,
Right, yeah.
but they have these big areas for like these different seminars and stuff. But you're right. The getting around in and out is rough.
Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
if you're handicapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it's like, it's obviously growing.
Yeah.
You know, this is the first one I've gone to, but based on what I've been hearing, it grows every year.
Yeah.
But I can't see it growing much bigger and being
Yeah.
tenable
Yeah.
in the space that they have available. I did feel like the room where all of the people were signing, that was giant, it was giant. It could have been another
Right.
dealer's type room, was kind of wasted space.
Yeah.
There was tons of open space in there,
Yeah.
and it just didn't feel like a lot of it was being used.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't see it.
I will say that the process to get in was much better this year.
Agreed.
Like in a couple of years, they used to have to get that one building on the south side, the south building. We used to be where you go to get your badges and stuff to get inside the convention center.
Yeah.
And that was a nightmare getting through those lines.
Yep.
And
you
now
have to go to a line to pick up your thing, then go to another line to get
into the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both lines are like
And-
at least a half hour long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were ridiculous back in the day. They streamlined that down, even with the checking your bags and wanting you got in a
yeah,
lot
it
quicker
didn't,
this
didn't
year.
feel like it took maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
to get
so
in.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the great thing about it is because it's multiple buildings downtown Phoenix. You guys trying to picture this in your head? They shut down all the streets around it too. So like,
Yeah.
so like in like a 3-block radius there's like all the streets are shut down, and then the convention center takes place on the streets as well too.
Right.
So there's like shadows of the big buildings downtown.
Yeah, there's
The
some
convention
booths
center.
outside.
They got booths outside. They got
The
the
beer tents.
beer tents and the vendors, the street the taco carts and all stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they had some trucks. They had
Some-
an outdoor Alice Cooper's music school stage or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So there are bands playing outside. Yeah, and then a couple of food trucks.
Yeah.
And then places like what's that? Ice was giving out free drinks.
Yeah.
Man, I need to go more than one day. I spent all of my time trying to just discover everything that was in the dealership hall. I didn't go to hardly any panels, and
and that's what I miss. I like that because we went to one panel. We had time. We did the Barbara Dunkelman panel.
Yeah.
And then Mike and I went to the Coffin Comics one, and it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Finding out, talking to these guys about what they're doing, and they did a 2-part thing. Like, this is what we're doing, and this is how you could use crowdfunding to do comic books and stuff like that. So it was a really cool panel.
Yeah.
I'd like more like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Yeah, it was half what they're doing, and then half on how to get your stuff off the ground and how to use social media to promote it and all this other kind of stuff. So it was really educational, and it was fun. So
yeah.
But those are the kind of panels I'm used to. There's a bunch of stuff there. Like, did you end up going to the what was it? I don't know what to go to the speed dating. The nerdy speed dating.
Geek speed dating. We walked by it, and it was pretty funny because it was pretty much, I would say, 3-to-1 guys to girls.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
So you go in there and find like other people to hang out with. Oh, you got D&D? I'm not looking for a date, but I need another player.
Group. That's funny.
But yeah, there's there's all kinds of cool stuff. There was like the 80s dance. There was the Rocket Raccoon 80s dance party I kind of wanted to go to. But
that's funny.
That harkens back to the days of the old gaming conventions. Back in the day, gaming conventions around here used to be the big thing. You play games all day,
right?
And then they'd have a dance every Saturday night.
Yeah,
right?
Like the rave.
Yeah. So then we go do the dance thing. This was back, in college years, back in the day when I actually went to dances and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I kind of missed that kind of party atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like there was a whole nother after the convention closed down. There was a whole nother convention nightlife that was going on. So they had a bunch of after hours, panels and stuff like that. I don't know, it's panels, but like events and stuff like that.
I wouldn't know because someone pulled the fire alarm.
Oh, that's right.
Is that what happened? Was somebody pulled the fire alarm?
No. Okay, so I don't know the full story because we didn't follow it after we were gone because we were done with it. We were sitting in Creepypasta, like waiting for Creepypasta to do stories. He does scary stories, reads them out loud. So we were going to do a listening of it. We were sitting and listening before the show. Him talk about stupid, scary stories, like a little 5-year-old trying to be scary stories.
Okay.
And then the minute he's like, all right, it's time to go, let's get started, let's do this story. So the fire alarm gets pulled.
Oh, no.
Then we're all out. The first theory was that someone pulled it. The second theory was that, and this is all Twitter, just looking through Twitter what people are saying, because everyone's outside and that's how anyone's communicating with each other. So someone else said that there was a chemical issue in the kitchen, and then someone else said that there was a sensor that had malfunctioned. So ultimately, I have no idea because we sat around waiting for 2 hours for them to come up with something for us to go in, but they I guess the fire chief couldn't figure out what the issue was and find out that it was safe for people to go back in. So about 2 hours in, we gave up and left. So I don't know what actually ended up happening, but those were the rumors that were floating
man,
around.
but it cut your Saturday short then.
Yeah.
We had waited all day to see Creepypasta and Team 4-Star, and that ended up happening. So, and of course, we only had one day, so it was well, that's everything. Time to go.
Bummer.
Yeah.
So you missed the Hentai Worth Watching panel?
Yeah, I've gone to that one before, and I feel every time it's more of let's make fun of hentai, which is fun, but come on now. What are your real suggestions?
Hashtag tentacle forever. All right. Yeah, I flipped through the book, and I was like, all right, let's see what panels we want to go see. And I think there was some Friday that we missed that I wanted to see.
Yeah. I got to say that was one thing that was frustrating was finding information on what was happening beforehand on their website was almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pain.
We always used to like get the beforehand and plan out what we're doing, like with the Comic-Con.
Well, usually they have like a schedule online that you can look up and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that.
And you could do it for all 4 days before you ever went. And now, I mean, Friday, I couldn't find out what was going on Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's
pretty bad.
That was frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, that was me not wanting to take an hour on their website, trying to just, because I was clicking on links that would just take me in circles, and I was just like, what is going on here?
And it turns out that some of that information wasn't even good. Like the Barbara Dunkelman, no one had mentioned that there was going to be, like, you had to pay money to go sign or anything like that. Like, there were plenty of opportunities that they could have, if you clicked on her thing and then you went to, like, her bio, it could have said if you want X, you could pay Y, and if you want this.
Luckily, we weren't prepared because we figured we've gotten, autographs before, so we had an idea how much it was going to be. But there was no information on there. It's like, oh, click here for more details, and it was just a bigger picture of her.
Yes.
Right. And then you click on what listings is she doing, or what is she doing, and that took you back to the page that you were looking at beforehand.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was kind of frustrating there.
So. Did you pay $50 for Will Wheaton autograph?
No. Okay, so we spent the entire day in the dealer hall. Like, I don't know if that was Armando wanting to do that, but like that's my life and soul is going through the dealership and finding out.
Artist Alley used to be my favorite part of the convention.
I love Artist Alley. That is like, if everything else was gone, it was just Artist Alley, I would still go.
That's how we ran into that Norm Bravogel and the people all the people we ran into. We'd run into them just like at their booth in Artist Alley.
Yeah.
And we're like, what's going on?
So it spent the entire day, and by the end of the day, like, we hadn't really had like an actual meal. And I'm like zombie because after a while of like being around a lot of people, I'm like completely drained. I like have no soul as I'm staring off into space. So like,
don't like people.
Yeah. So we we're walking and we found what is it? It's the Cyanide and Happiness booth. And so Armando was like, oh, well, I've been meaning to pick up the expansions. This would be a great time to do it. While we were looking at it, we were hearing someone else saying, oh, the artist is going to be here taking signatures and whatnot. Like, he's going to be doing signatures. And we're like, what a great opportunity. We'll just stand in line and also get your stuff signed while we're here. So we got some extra stuff to get signed, and we're waiting in line, and we're really excited. And like all of it, like there's this like screen where you can like press different buttons, and it like flips through the different kinds of cards for one of their games. And I'm like staring off into space, having a moment while everyone else is doing whatever they're doing. We're still waiting. And this lady comes up, and then some guy stands next to her. And I'm just like staring, and I'm like kind of looking at him, but more like zombie. Like, I'm sure to him it was like some person staring at me uncomfortably, but in actuality, I'm beyond him. I'm out in space.
Yeah.
So I'm like off in space, and Armando's like kind of over here, like towards me, angled away from like what's happening over here, and I'm like kind of paying attention. There's like some guy asking for someone, and then like them saying they're not there, and then him waiting awkwardly, and then the lady's like, well, do you want to leave a note? And he's like, sure. So he like gets it, and he's kind of looking around at like who's there and whatnot. And I'm still like,
zoned out.
And so there's a note, and like then they leave, and like the people behind the desk that were like taking the note and whatnot are like they've got treasure in their hands. Is this really happening? Sort of moment.
Nice.
And, like, I'm still out. Like, I'm gone. I'm doing whatever in my head. And Armando's like, that was Will Wheaton. I was like, what? He's like, that was Will Wheaton. I'm pretty sure that was Will Wheaton right there.
Nice.
And the note had said, I was here and you weren't, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like something really silly and dumb. But like, then embarrassment falls upon me.
You're like, oh, I was staring at Will Wheaton.
I probably looked like one of those silly fangirls just staring like, oh my God, it's Will Wheaton, it's Will Wheaton. But in actuality, I'm like not even.
Get over yourself, Will. She didn't even notice you.
Oh my God. And then it was like the realization that like, I didn't even get to see Will Wheaton, and he was right in front of me.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
I was sitting there going, like, I remember one year, like, when we ran into Will Wheaton, and it was like, he was signing for autographs. It was basically like doing an autograph thing. It's like, that's like $50 for, that's where I found out he was charging $50 for his autograph. And I just got to be paying like $25 for, what's his name from Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy? Yondu, what's his? Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker.
I just got paid $25 for Michael Rooker's autograph, right? And I'm like, why am I going to pay $50 for Wesley's autograph? Right. I mean, don't get me wrong, Will Wheaton's cool and all, right? But he's like, you know, he's kind of ascended to this geek god status that like everyone's all like, oh, it's Will Wheaton, and I'm like, you're Wesley Crusher. I mean, you're cool. Don't get me wrong, I like you and everything, but I don't pay $50 for your autograph, man.
I'll pay $50 for anybody.
I don't pay $50 for anybody's autograph. I don't like.
I cannot think of a person that I would pay $50 for their autograph.
I might, you know, it depends if it's like, you know, you'd have to be like John Elway or maybe William Shatner, but
like maybe like an autograph and a selfie with like whatever you want signed on the picture or something like that.
Yeah. I remember it was like something because we were there for something else, and it was like, oh, well, we was like, oh, you want a signature? I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be $50. I'm like, no, no, I don't. I don't want your autograph. Sorry, you're cool and all, but no, no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. I mean, it was one of those.
I wonder how many people end up paying $50 for his autograph because they don't want to be embarrassed to say no. Once they get up there, they're like,
I had no qualms about saying no to Will Wheaton.
I guess.
I'm like, $50? No. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
Passive aggressively making all these poor nerds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who would do that?
Who would like me? I'm like, sorry, Will Wheaton. But yeah, it was one of those situations where like, and back in the day, you used to like run into artists and like you get them like you get a little sketch or you know or get an autograph or if they're doing a comic, you bought their comic, they sign it for you. Now it's like you buy their comic and then you got to pay them, you know, X amount of dollars for them to sign it and everything.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember who the actor is who plays Marcus Cole on Babylon 5, but I got his autograph for $20, but it was an autograph of an action figure that I was also buying at the same time.
Oh.
So that's the only time I had previously paid for an autograph.
Right, yeah.
But I got something with it.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like...
Yeah, and I have no problem buying somebody's stuff to have autographed, you know?
Yeah.
But,
Heck yeah.
But paying, you know...
Just for
the autograph, I'm like, paying for the stuff and then having to pay on top of that for the autograph. I'm kind of like, no, it's just a signature. I don't care.
Cyanide and Happiness did little doodles on our books and our posters.
Oh, nice,
and his signature and everything. It was awesome.
That's awesome, yeah. See, I like that. So, like, back in the day, comic book artists used to do that all the time. They put a little sketch in.
You take a book and they give you a sketch in your book.
Oh, it's called something now.
Yeah.
We were talking to one of the ladies, and she, one of the artists that we bought prints from, and she said apparently now it's called like something specific. Like rather than getting your signature, you ask for
a sketch or whatever.
It's not a sketch though. It's like I don't know what it's called, but it's a word for the picture that you make instead of your signature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I used to have. In fact, I got them packed away somewhere. Like back when we went to conventions, I used to have sketchbooks, and instead of collecting autographs, I collect sketches from artists. So I have like one full and one almost full sketchbooks.
That's so cool.
You know, with all these different comic book artists and their,
That's awesome.
sketches, and I was trying to get anyone who ever drew the Hulk at all. I kept trying to get a picture of the Hulk. Come on, can you do the Hulk? And
did you have to pay people to do that?
No, back in the day I didn't. Like I got a Todd McFarlane sketch because he's like, you want Spawn? I'm like, no, I want the Hulk. I want the Hulk. I mean, I'm doing a collection of the Hulk. Right. So this is back. So I've got 2 like Spawn sketches from him, and then finally when I showed him, I got 2 Spawn sketches already because like I'm only one Spawn, and whatever Todd. Yeah. It's Todd doing. I'm like, come on, man, I got 2 sketches of Spawn already, man. I need a Hulk for my collection. Right. And he finally did like a Hulk.
Oh, that's
and it was
awesome.
it's just like. He did like a signature Hulk with his, with just like the eyes and the teeth, and then the hair, in shadow. Yeah. But it was kind of like, it was white instead of black, and just the eyes and the teeth and the hair. So I'm like, awesome. I got a Todd Hulk. Yeah. So that's a. There you go. But yeah, I mean you can't really do that anymore. They don't have time. There's so many people they got to see. They don't have time to do sketches for anybody. Yeah. Anything more than like a doodle if they do that anymore. Yeah. But that was a fun little thing for me back in the day, going to the different conventions, getting sketches. But I don't know. And it was weird. And Doug and I were talking about this. like looking around the conventions now, we used to go to conventions back in the day, and we know 90% of everything there, right? We go there, it's like, okay, I know what that is. I know what that is. So if there's somebody dressed up, back before cosplay was a big thing, they still had people always dressed up.
Right, yeah.
At some point or another.
But it was always as a comic book character or something like that you would recognize.
And I'm like, okay, I know who that is. Now I look around at the convention center, and I don't know how it is for you, younger, but I mean, I don't recognize, I'd probably maybe 20%, if that.
Yeah.
If that. It's kind of like switched, you know. Used to be like, all right, I know most of the stuff here. Now I'm like, I don't know anything here. Like, wait, there's something I recognize.
Yeah.
I feel like Captain America and Avengers. Like, I get that reference.
I get that reference.
I love it that way, though.
Yeah. It just means it's more inclusive. There's more people have stuff that they're into out there now than just the handful of us that are into, like, you know, most of the stuff now. There's so much stuff to be into out there now.
Right.
You know, so that's cool. But, I mean...
Although that does bring in a convention like this, that brings the frustration of, well, I came for this, and there's hardly any of that here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the problem, is that ComicCon has now become NerdCon, essentially. Like, you see anime, you see cartoons, you see comics and books and just art of random stuff. Like, if it's nerd-related, it's there.
Yeah. And I was amazed at the number of panels that were just fan-run.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let's talk about, you know, Batman, the Metal Knight stuff that's going, whatever that series. Let's just talk about it. Nobody who's in any way related to DC was involved in the panel. It's just some guys who like Batman, apparently. Like, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay.
Which I'm
going to start my own panel, I guess.
Which is kind of cool in the fact that that's kind of old school. Back before they got a whole bunch of industry guests, it was just conventions were a way for people to get together and goob about stuff that they're passionate about, right? And it just seems weird in a setting where you're paying that much money and there's so many people. Yeah. You know, that feels more old school to me.
Right.
You know, you go into like a convention center, it's like the back room of a comic book shop, and you sit there and goob about whatever, you know, and buy comics. But, you know, I kind of like it, and then I kind of don't, because it's like one of those things, like I go to these things for the big spectacle, and now it's like, unless you're into like cosplay, I think cosplay is now a big part of any convention you go to now. Yeah. It's like it's like half cosplay con and then half of whatever.
There were people there who obviously paid just to go be seen in their cosplay. Because I know that walking back and forth between the buildings, going to lunch, things like that, there were a few cosplayers who never left the area right as you came in between the two buildings. Yeah. They were there every time you went outside.
There's holding court there for
you're just like,
people taking pictures with them and stuff like that, you know?
That's another thing. Now, apparently, cosplayers have their own booths now. Like, they're their own celebrities, and they sell prints of them dressed up as other people. Yep. And, like, that's the entirety of that booth, which is so bizarre to me.
Yeah. I mean, and it's some of the bigger ones. Like, obviously, like, Jessica Negri used to do that. Like Ivy Doom Kitty, some of the ones that are like their bigger name cosplayers got their own booth now. But now it's a business. Now it's you know, now instead of just doing it for fun, they're doing it. They're models basically, right? You know, and they're selling prints of themselves. Yeah. So I mean, you know, hey, if you got
and one would think or skills to make the kind of stuff.
The skills and But I mean, if you got, why not? If you can do it, if you make money. Believe me, if I could get people to pay money for pictures of me, I would be in a booth selling pictures of me. No one wants to pay for that, but if they did, I'm telling you, I would sell it.
True enough.
I'd dress up like whatever you wanted me to dress up like. Just leave your comments down below, and I'll have a dollar amount down below what you need. But you know, like I said, so I don't blame any of them for. You're right. It's just weird though. Yeah. It's just a weird thing. And you're like, no, that's an industry now. Yeah. But you know, hey, I mean, it's cool. I've always liked people that dressed up. Yeah. Like, you know, I like cosplayer. I mean, now it's got a
huge part like of the con, and I believe a part of why I go. Like, you're right. Panels are very much like fan driven, and that's the only way I've ever really known them to be. I didn't know that they used to do comics, which would be so cool. I'm not sure why we went away from that, but the biggest reason is always Artist Alley for local artists and for cosplay players.
Yeah.
In the 90s, Comic-Con was all about, probably 80% comics, right?
Yeah.
So like every indie comic, well, all the big ones had their own booths and their own talent there. Yeah. And then if you had an indie comic coming out or it was an indie publisher or whatever, they'd have their own booth and they'd have their artists and their talent there and they'd sign in and doing stuff and selling their stuff at San Diego. And that was like that was why I was like half the floor down there. You go by there and buy comics and see the new stuff that's coming out. And even if they hadn't have their comic out yet, they'd have like the preview art books of what they got coming out. So you come check that out and buy prints of their upcoming stuff. Yeah. But now it's a small corner, right? The whole Artist Alley is now its alley. It's a small little section over in the big giant, dealers area.
Yeah.
Well, and something else you got to keep in mind is the people who we would think, like, the editors, writers, artists, all that from the big comics to come and talk about their stuff. They're working artists, writers, whatever.
Yeah.
They can't go to every convention out there. They pretty much, they go to San Diego, New York, and Chicago, and other than that, it's probably not worth their time to be not drawing or not writing at that point in time.
Yeah, it's true.
They can't go to all of these small town.
Right.
Not Phoenix is not exactly small town, but convention-wise, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So anyways.
I'm just happy we got one. Now we actually have a convention now.
And that day when we were driving home, I was like, man, I'm not sure this was worth it. $55, I didn't feel like I got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
But if they could improve because it's not like there wasn't a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, we didn't find out about it until we got there.
Right.
So if there were more information, better information available ahead of time, it potentially could be worth, going again.
Right. Well, I agree. I feel like if you had time to be able to plan your day, to be able to say, this is what I'm going to do, then make it feel like it was a whole day dedicated to doing all the nerd things you've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Next year, I'm telling you what, I want to go to some of the after-hour stuff.
Yeah.
The after-hours stuff is so much fun.
Yeah.
I love it. I loved it even more when I was in college and drinking with all the people.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But it's so fun.
All right, so let's ask this as we're kind of getting to the end here, wrapping up. If you could go to any convention that you're aware of now, what one would it be?
Ooh.
You can go. It's you have the means to go. But you can only go to one. Where are you going?
None that you guys are aware of. So
is it just in general something that you won't show up at?
Screw you guys, I don't care about you. No, so here's the thing. Phoenix Comicon is too small in my opinion. There is stuff to do, and there's nerd stuff to do, and while it has the things that I like, which are Artist Alley and things, you can find that pretty much anywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to really tiny, like one of our colleges, I helped put together a small convention. We had like 300 people show up, and like that was really fun because it was very personable, but it wasn't the feeling of a con.
Right.
And I feel like everything that I hear from something like San Diego or New York is that it's so overrun, there's so much going on, that how are you supposed to enjoy anything? You feel like you're crushed at all times trying to fight to get to places that you want to go see and do. So the only one that I can think of that right now in a heartbeat I would go to would be the anime convention I went to in Illinois. It was called ASIN. And ASIN was like if you made Phoenix Comicon 3 times the size that it is, and it was all focused on one particular thing that everyone in the con liked, and there was crap ton of people doing different things. Like all of the hotels, everything is centralized, so you could go to the hotels, and one of the hotels specifically was just for playing video games. So you go down into the basement, you could play like some new games, some old games. They had people playing card games and board games and like all sort of things. You could go into the other, and you could go to like, what were they called? They were like tea parties and like themes cafes is what they're called.
Yeah.
So different themed cafes. So you could go to a dog cafe, or you could go to this anime that you liked cafe, or this other anime theme, or a cute boys cafe, or a zombie girls cafe, or things like that. So like there was so much to do that even if you had one day, which we always did multiple days, but even if you had one day, there's so many things, and there's so many choices that you feel like the day is specialized to you. So
Right.
you only like these things, you can go do it, and there's so much to do within that area that it's amazing. People were awesome. Hands down, best convention I've ever been to.
Wow.
Cool.
That's a pretty good sell. What about you, Doug?
D23.
D23, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's the Disney
one.
convention
Oh, okay.
where they kind of talk about what's going to happen in the next year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And they have all kinds of people demonstrations.
Yeah.
They bring out models and stuff. And it's a club. You have to be a member of D23 to go. So it's a little more controlled, I think,
Yeah.
of an environment. It's not quite as crazy. There's only going to be a limited number of people that go to the things. And it's close. It's in Anaheim. I think it goes every 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then sometimes they have a D23 someplace else in the world.
Yeah.
So, but
That would
yeah,
be
I'd like
cool.
to go to that at least once.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
that's badass.
Okay, I have kind of two, because I don't want to go to San Diego Comic.
Cheater. I had two as well, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
true. But San Diego's too crowded anymore.
Yeah.
Although I love the areas around San Diego. I like going there to go to San Diego as much as I like going to the convention. Almost.
Mexican food in Old Town.
Yeah, going to Seaport Village, the whole bit.
Yeah.
One day I'd like to go to New York Comic-Con, even though that's going to be crowded as hell too.
Yeah.
But I think if I have my choice, I'd like to go to either Dragon Con in Atlanta, which is like the premier cosplay con, and it's got like an adult, like after hours kind of thing. It's like half open convention, half kind of like more for adults.
Right.
Which looks awesome, and Atlanta's an awesome place, so I'd like to go there. But either that or PAX.
Oh, I would love
Yeah.
to
I'd
go
like to go to
PAX.
PAX, yeah. PAX, like PAX Prime,
Yeah.
right? And because it's a big gaming convention, they always have like a huge concert on Saturday night. Where they bring in all the nerd artists. MC Frontalot always plays PAX. It just looks like a ton of fun. And it's just something that I would want to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day, the Grizzled Geek will go to PAX.
Well, see.
Awesome.
Every time I worked at a game company, I always trying to convince them to go to PAX. Like, what convention are we going to this year? We always go to Gen Con or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, come on, we're going to go to PAX. It's a gaming convention. We're going to go to PAX. And they never bought into it. So I guess I'm going to have to break down and go myself.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So that's the conventions we'd like to go to. Convention we went to this last weekend or last
Couple
weekends ago.
Yeah.
And our thoughts on conventions as a whole. So if you guys went to the Amazing Phoenix Comic Fest, let us know down below. If you have a favorite convention that we didn't mention, let us know as well. Let us know what your convention experience is like.
Yeah.
Or if you could pick one to go to, which one would you go to?
Yeah.
So you into anime or, gaming or hentai, whatever you want into. Whatever kind of, we don't judge. We don't judge here. So.
Judge Mike all the time.
Yeah, they do. They judge me. So, all right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe.
Share with your friends.
Show your friends. There's links down below if you want to support the channel or Patreon or through our Teespring store. And for those of you listening on listen to the podcast on Stitcher and that, none of those links are down below. But you can go to YouTube and check them out if you really want to. So, thank you very much, guys, for listening to us, and we'll be back next time with some more nerd topics.
Yeah, thanks.
So, bye.
Bye.